Hoist the sails, coil the ropes, store the water and stock the food. It's time to set a course for the great Southland. These are the words that may have rung out across the decks of the bark Endeavour when she set sail from England. Captain James Cook and his crew travelled across the sea to discover Australia, where they sighted land in the year 1770, a moment in history. The inspiration for a voyage of exploration was twofold. The Royal Society in London was granted a scientific expedition by King George III. The Endeavour was to observe the transit of the planet Venus across the disk of the Sun from the island of Tahiti. The aim of this was to establish the distance of the Earth from the Sun. The astronomer on board was Charles Green. What makes this moment in Australia's history eventful is that the transit of Venus occurred again in 2012, at almost the same time on June the 6th. Captain Cook also carried with him sealed orders to continue sailing the Pacific after Tahiti to explore the Great Southland. Very little was known about the Australian continent, although there were early reports from the explorer Abel Tasman from 1642 of Van Diemen's Land. Australia was also called New Holland, from early Dutch explorers. In July 1769, the bark Endeavour departs the small island of Tahiti in search of Australia. Finding the island in the Pacific was tantamount to Cook's skills as a navigator. Before too long, a call rang out from the mast of the Endeavour, "Land!" as a coastline was sighted. The Endeavour then spent the next 5 months travelling the coastline and charting New Zealand. Captain Cook mapped the islands, naming Cook Strait as the passage between the North and South Islands. And that brings the Endeavour to April in 1770, when she left the shores of New Zealand on her voyage. Before too long, several seabirds were sighted flying in the sky. Land could not be far away. Then, on Thursday, April 19, Lieutenant Hicks called out from his watch, "Land," and the east coast of Australia was discovered. The Endeavour had sighted land on the far south coast of what is now New South Wales. Captain Cook explored northwards along the east coast, charting and naming much of the coastline. The Endeavour eventually made landfall at Botany Bay on April 29, discovering and unfortunately wounding native Aboriginals and searching for water. The botanist on the ship was Joseph Banks, and many scientific discoveries were made on the voyage on Australian plants and animals. Soon the Endeavour continued north from Botany Bay and travelled the entire eastern coastline. The Endeavour's journey north from Botany Bay met with some troubles when the ship ran aground on the Great Barrier Reef. Luckily though, the damage was not great and the crew were able to make repairs before continuing to the northern waters. With a lot of luck and good seamanship, Captain Cook sailed north and their course led them from the Cape York Peninsula and onwards into history. The long voyage back to England was nearly a year, and the Endeavour arrived safely home to London in July of 1771. Cook's journals, charts and reports to the British Admiralty were the talk of the town and set Captain James Cook into the history books as the world's greatest explorer in a voyage of Australia's discovery. A moment in history.